Welcome, fellow last placers, to another episode of LPF Debrief, where Chris and I talk about comic books, movies, TV shows, and anime. And I know what you're thinking. You haven't seen us in a while. And you would be correct. You have not. But we are back here and we're giving you guys a special. We're doing all 3 episodes that we've missed of Hawkeye. So we're going to be doing all 3 of these episodes. We're going to keep it on it won't be too long. We'll get into our opinions talking about what we need to talk about. But before we get into all of that, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Guys, please hit the sub button. We're trying to give you guys the Steel Series 3 mouse, wireless mouse. We want to give it to you so then we can do something else to give you something else.
How many times I gotta tell you? How many times I gotta tell you, let us give you stuff? How many times? Let me give you stuff. Knock it off. Go check the subscribe button. Tell your friends. Let me give you things.
That's all we're saying. All right. And as always, there will be some spoilers in here. So be prepared for that. We are covering episodes 1, 2, and 3, just so you guys know. And joining me as always, because the person that we're about to shame is not here for not watching the content that we normally watch. Yendi, shame. But I do have Chris here.
Yeah.
So, let's get right into it, Chris. Let's talk about Hawkeye. Episodes 1, 2, and 3. It doesn't matter. You don't have to go in order. Let's just know what you're thinking. What are the things that you've been enjoying about it? Just everything. Just let us know, man, because we haven't talked in a while. Let's do it.
Already, for me, fantastic. Out of the shows we've gotten so far, Winter Soldier.
We're already halfway through it, pretty much.
Are we? How many episodes is it?
6 episodes.
Oh, god dang it.
This ends actually the week before Book of Boba started. Remember I told you there was going to be that weird timeline where we just kept going into shows? Well, here it is.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Well, I love it so far. Very funny. I love the girl that's playing, what's her name? Kate Bishop. She's great, man. What a great, as soon as I saw it, because I didn't watch any trailers or anything like that, I'm kind of falling more into the route of what Alan does, is not watch trailers. So whenever she showed up, I was just like, oh, sweet, it's her. Like, I know who this person is.
Haley Seinfeld.
What's that?
Haley Seinfeld.
Yes, Haley Seinfeld. She's great. The show so far is...
Seinfeld.
It's gory, I guess you could say. Not super gory, but like I feel like there's a lot. Like the whole time, I'm like, man, we're seeing a lot for this show compared to Loki and
well, I think when you're dealing with swordplay, kind of, which has been an ongoing thing with this show.
Yeah, but I wasn't expecting like blood splatter on the window. Like whenever the Ronin scene comes up, you see it like paint the wall. I'm like, oh shoot. Okay.
But that's the goal. Like, I think they're trying to show, like, I think they really do a good job, because even in Endgame, Ronin scenes are very graphic. Like, yeah. It's hinted graphic, right? Because remember that whole scene when Black Widow goes to pick him up, like, he's like slicing people. And then even the last person that he literally like takes the sword and like, so they've made Ronin this overly aggressive character, because it's also paying homage to a lot of those, a lot of the kung fu and a lot of the samurai ninja stuff that also is very like out of this world, gory and bloody. So I think they're doing a real good, tasteful job at showing that.
Yeah, but so far, like I said, it's a very fun show. I really like what they're doing about him losing his hearing. There's
pulled right from the comic book.
Yeah, so whenever he's losing his hearing and everything, I love that camera shot of, we get a good, like, I want to say like 5 minutes of just what he hears and him trying to figure out like, okay, I got to figure out how to do this without using a hearing aid right now, because his breaks at some point in the episode. And I thought, man, this is nuts.
And the good thing about that is because, one of the ongoing things is always, well, Hawkeye is just a human and he just gets up just fine. So I think them showing that he is having like these issues, like with his body, with his hearing, not being able to hear, like it does do a damage. And I love that montage that they
Yeah,
showed
he's just like,
where he's
ah.
like, "You're losing your hearing," and he's like, "Why are you losing your hearing?" And it's like it cuts to like all of the crazy like explosions and all that stuff that he had to go through. And again, it makes sense. I mean, Hawkeye is only a very well trained human, so him going through all these explosions and going through Thanos and all this stuff like that will put, like have a toll on him. So I think it's a great way to show that he is vulnerable, and it also someone who it also cool because he it essentially is relying on his eyesight,
Yeah.
right? Which is what makes him a great like makes him great with his bow and arrow. He doesn't necessarily need his hearing, so I think it's cool that they gave him a defect that he kind of doesn't use as much because it's not really what he's required. Like he doesn't require his hearing as much as he does his eyesight, but I think it's still good because you see the things that he is losing in the process, like hearing his family talk and all that stuff is kind of like, is having its own toll on him. So I think that's really cool how they're doing that.
Also seeing him as getting to be a dad and how he's trying to get rid, not rid, but he's trying to live a normal life. And you
Mhm.
see that whenever that scene, for some reason, it hit hard. Whenever they bring him extra food, and he's like, "Oh, there's no need for that." He's like, "No, there's every need for that. Like, you know, you saved us." He's like, "Oh, thank you." I mean, he just like you can tell on his face. He's like, he doesn't want this, man.
Yeah.
He just did what he had to do to continue providing for his family, living his life, and everything like that. So
He did what he felt was right, and he didn't
exactly.
feel like he should be rewarded for saving that. But also, it goes to that complex that him and Kate are having currently, right? Because Kate is trying to tell him, like, no, like, ever since I saw you jump out of that window and do that epic stuff, I've wanted to be you. So you may not feel like you're a role model, but to me, that's you're the reason why I'm even in this whole situation. Like, because I wanted to be someone who is like you. And it's cool that Hawkeye can then pull that back and be like, listen, it's not everything you think it is. Like there's so much more to this. Like, and that's why the whole sacrifice thing is really cool, right? Because in episode 3, where they're talking about sacrifice, and it's like, oh, like he's not just talking about the family, he's also talking about like his health, like his general health is also what he's been sacrificing, right? To be the common good. And he can't live a normal life because people will recognize him because he doesn't wear a mask. So all of that, plays such a, and like he said, he was like, my number one job is to be discreet and to be a ghost. And because he's so big and like fate, like he's not, obviously he's like one of the lesser knowns, but people still know him because you've been on such a big platform this whole time. So
Yeah. Another thing too from episode 1. Oh well, before we get into that, what do you think overall of Hawkeye?
overall, I think it's great. I think everything that they were supposed to do is being done, right? So Kate, I love Kate Bishop. I think she's great. Like the character that she's portraying is exactly what you would think it would be, right? So, and that's why I don't like to like I like doing these episodic reviews just so we talk about the episode, but in totality, I think you can't just judge things based off of what you see like first couple of episodes, right? Because it is like Kate is supposed to be in a character that is annoying Hawkeye, but they're also setting up her character to become the new Hawkeye, right? So like she is going to be in the forefront of this, even though it's called Hawkeye. Like it's not really about Clint as much. It's about how Clint takes on a protege, like how he trains this person while not wanting to do it. And you can see why he wants to actually, in a sense of him, wants to do this because he wants to be able to spend Christmas with his family. Like, and that I think is an ongoing thing that's in the background that you still don't kind of pay attention to, but it's like that's what Clint is talking about essentially in this whole thing is like, I don't want to have to do this, but also he's paying for what he did when he was in a very dark place, when he didn't have his family. And now that he has his family, he is now answering to what he did in the past.
Yeah.
So like it's a really cool and that's the kind of things I like to think about when watching these shows because I don't feel like it's just all up in, it's not supposed to be all in your face, but there's so much other character development that's going on with these characters. And that's the thing that I love about what Clint has to go through in this show, is that he needs to take on someone new and try to train them. But even though he doesn't want to, but in a part of him is kind of like, well, it would be nice if I could just stay with my family and not have to deal with this. So even though he doesn't want to, he kind of, a part of him is like, I know why she has that fire, because like that's something that I had, like, and now that he has consequences and things, he wants to kind of get rid of the whole Ronin thing. And it's just like I said, the whole complexity to the story to me is what really draws me into it.
Yeah, I was gonna say from episode 1 when you see young Kate and after her father passes and everything like that, and she's sitting at the funeral. I ended up laughing really hard, me and Bree, because I was like, when she goes, "What if they come back?" The mom goes, "They're not gonna come back."
Yeah.
And she's like, "We're safe now." And I said, "Oh, honey."
Like,
but
like, also like, no, you're not safe.
We got so much that's coming.
Like, what made you think you were gonna be safe? Like, what made you think something else wasn't gonna happen? Like, I don't know. Like,
you had
once you see
aliens
something
come
like that,
from the
like,
sky.
for real,
From the sky.
okay? Like, no, so,
So,
I don't know what you.
I
I
know.
guess she was doing that comforting thing that you have to do as a parent.
Yeah, but I
come
was whenever I saw that, I was just like, man, we still got Ultron.
Yeah,
You still got
Like, we
Thanos
didn't-
coming.
yeah.
You still got
But so many other things happened. Like, so,
Oh man, it was nuts. It was nuts seeing that. I was laughing so hard. It just kind of broke me out of that moment. But
Yeah.
seeing what I love, what Marvel does, is seeing a perspective that we don't get to see. So we see the cool superhero fights of them smashing through the buildings, all this other stuff, and you're just like, wow, they're like protecting the city. They need to win this fight, blah blah blah. But you see the destructiveness of it. You see what I'm glad we get to see what a civilian is going through in that moment. You got to realize, like, wow, you're seeing all this cool fighting superhero stuff, but at the same time, this is supposed to be like it's not a cool thing. It's supposed to be chaos. Like it's not a good thing. What we're watching is not a good thing happening at all.
Yeah.
So
no, and you're right. Like, what they do really well is like that's the thing that that's what I love about these TV shows, is that you can show those perspectives like you're
Yeah.
talking about. So like you can show Kate being like being in the penthouse, and obviously people are blowing up the penthouse.
yeah,
Like,
and you
know what I
see,
mean?
and
Like,
you can see it through the window when she's running, and you
Mhm.
see the circular window, and you see the fight happening outside. It
Yeah.
gives you that sense of panic, like holy crap, like I got to
It's
get
like,
out of
yeah,
here.
yeah.
And she couldn't
And
find
they-
her parents, and you're like, what?
exactly, which is another thing. Why were the parents just like nowhere to be found?
That's
for
what I'm
about
saying,
5
because
minutes?
that's what I said. Like I also pointed that out whenever things start blowing up, and he's like, oh, in the middle of a hurricane, I'll do what I always do, and that's protect you. And then Dad, Mom,
No,
I was
yeah.
like, you gonna home alone your daughter right now?
Like-
What's going on?
And I get they were downstairs, but like it's just like, bro. Like, as soon as you would have heard something, you would
Yeah.
at least, like, they should have at least shown her like trying to get upstairs, like, you know what I mean? But
It was nuts.
is what it is.
It's crazy. What else was I gonna say, man? The friggin' the auction. I was gonna talk about the auction house. It took me a second. Oh, it's not even the auction thing. Just Kate in general. So I like the way how they set her up quickly, so she can start fighting. We don't have to go through the basic of, like, you know, her running into Hawkeye by accident and being like, okay, this is how you hold a bow, this is how you fight, and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
The small subtle hints I had to remind myself, because whenever she fights in the auction house, when she's fighting people, and you start seeing her beat up stuff and all this other, doing the flips and everything, I'm like, man, she just knows this stuff. And then it clicked that her mom was like, well, I remember when you were a black belt and all this.
Yeah.
Like, she brings up the martial art past, and I'm like,
But remember,
Oh, yeah,
they
okay.
even do that if you in episode 1, and this was unique to episode 1, is that the beginning thing shows you all of that.
yeah,
It shows you, remember, it shows you in that cool animation thing of all of the stuff that she's done.
That
So
she's
they
done
already
so far,
showed you
so
the
she's set up.
gymnastics.
yeah.
It showed you all that stuff. So you're just like, okay. And that's good because, again, you're dealing with 6 episodes, and you don't want to have a whole montage about how these people learn how to fight.
Yeah.
Like, especially not in a TV show. You want to let's get to episode 1, and she knows all this.
So
She
we
went
can
to
get into the
archery.
story.
Yeah, she went into archery school. We know that. We know all the things that she can do. and then now she's able to fight. So
Yeah,
I thought that was a real tasteful way to do it.
Marvel's so good at doing that, man. They just keep showing that you don't need to give an origin story over and over again. You give everybody, it's superheroes. Everybody knows that a superhero has had a rough past, and something sparked the interest to get them to where they are. And we just run with that. They give us what we need, and then we continue on. And I really appreciate it. Mm-hmm. So.
And then let's talk about one of the gems of the first couple of episodes, the musical. Listen, I'm ready. I'm ready to watch.
I know it's coming. Yeah,
it's coming.
Oh yeah,
it is coming, and I will be one of the people who buys a ticket, and I will be there to watch it because it was hilarious. Like, it was just funny. The lyrics were perfect. Like, they talked about the shawarma stuff. Like, the whole thing was great. And then I love, which was another cool thing that they did, was the whole Ant-Man show being in the musical, and then him pointing that out.
Yeah, he's like, who wasn't there? He wasn't.
Ant-Man. Yeah. But then, when you think about it, now I've already kind of debunked this because but this is an interesting little theory that my friend Chase actually brought this up, was that, now that Hawkeye, technically, Ant-Man was there because after Endgame, they went back in time, and remember, they went back to 2012, and then they actually were there. The reason why that is debunked in that term, though, is because they technically don't follow that timeline.
Yeah.
The only way you could follow that is if you're saying that Hawkeye is technically in that timeline currently. But it's still cool because technically, in a version of 2012, there was an Ant-Man somewhere. Yeah. So it is kind of cool. Like, that whole little thing is kind of cool to me.
It was, yeah, dude. That musical was definitely something. Whenever he's like rolling his eyes, and I can get it. I get it though. Like, we would want to see it, but I could see his point of view.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of like, God, they're portraying us, and like, this is not how we are, and all this.
But it's also not how it happened.
Yeah, exactly. It's not.
So, like, they're not getting like that information from the people who were there, but also like, Hawkeye, I don't know why he would even go to that show in the first place. I guess to, please the kids, but even the kids are kind of like, Dad, we actually know what you did.
Yeah, we don't need to do this.
We don't need to do this. So it is a kind of cool thing of, him being a dad and then showing that whole superhero stuff too, right?
Also, Tony not being in a suit. I don't know if you saw that. He was like, they just kept him with the gloves and then the glasses and a blazer. And I was like,
we know how theater is, all right? We know how theaters are. Sometimes we have to cut a little budget somewhere. And that was where we had to cut the budget. As Chris and I know, people who are in the theater, we know those things can add up, especially if you're not a high budget theater. So, sometimes you gotta make it work. And they did. They did.
Oh man,
they did have some good flights in there too, so I thought it was cool. But yeah, so some other cool things. There's a lot of references in this show, and I don't know if a lot of people are catching them. Obviously, I'm here to help you guys out, but this show in general has shown me that the West Coast Avengers is going to happen. And for a lot of people who don't know, it's probably going to happen in TV show. But Hawkeye and Kate are members of the West Coast Avengers, and so is now the White Vision, right? So White Vision is actually Vision in the West Coast Adventures. He just had a different look. But now that's already 3 characters that have been titled to, or who have a connection to the West Coast Avengers. And I love how Marvel is able to put that into the way that they're just throw little hints at it, and then they're going to be like, we know next year at like D23, they're going to be like, West Coast Avengers show is announced, and then remember where you heard it first, okay?
We'll hear Alan the ring around the world of, I knew it!
I'll be like, I told you, I've known these characters were in there. So I think it's really cool. I also think we're already setting up the villain, which is obviously Jack. Jack is an old comic book villain, which is swordsman, and hence why he has all the swords. And you can tell that back in the day, we weren't really unique with the villain names because back in the day with the heroes either, we just named them what they had. So that is a villain that Clint used to fight, and that's who pretty much is what we're setting up to be. So,
do you think we see what's her face, Black Widow's sister?
Yes, absolutely. We have to.
Yeah.
because of the way that the show. So here we go. There's a couple of well, obviously, I don't even feel like that's a theory, but I feel like at some point we will see that.
We'll see
character,
her.
right?
We'll see
We'll see
Vivian.
her. We'll see, yes, and then we're going to see because you know who the uncle is, right? I don't know if you know, but
I thought the
'cause
uncle would
I
be.
know.
I thought the uncle would be Jack. That's what me and
No,
Bree
no,
were
no, no,
thinking.
no, no, no. Oh no, no, you guys are off. You know, you guys are off.
See, they're making
You know
it too.
who it is?
I knew I wasn't gonna fully guess, but
No.
who is it?
Kingpin.
No.
Yes, because Echo, who is currently our villain right now, that is his adopted daughter. So they just changed the origin.
If I see the dude,
It's going to be it's going to be Vincent D'Onofrio, and I'm telling you because if you guys remember when Hawkeye was coming out, he tweeted, "Oh, very interested to see about Hawkeye. So excited." Yeah, and I'm not crazy, but I know his laugh, and I'm pretty sure that was his laugh that I heard, and I'm not going crazy. That it's Vincent D'Onofrio. I am sure of it. I am positive because it makes sense. And here's why I tell you it makes sense. We already have the rumors of Charlie Cox showing up in Spider-Man, right?
yeah,
Those are already a thing. Vincent D'Onofrio has said that he loves to play Kingpin and he would love to play Kingpin again. They both are off of those contracts that they were with Netflix, right? They can totally be signed. The two people, there's four people that if you asked unanimously, who can you keep from those old Netflix shows? Everyone would say Charlie Cox. They would say Vincent D'Onofrio. They'd say Jessica Jones,
mm-hmm.
and they would say Punisher. Like those are the four people. So there's no way that is not him, especially because that is Echo's origin. So what I feel like is going to happen is we're going to get the introduction. I think we're going to see Charlie Cox. Remember I said this. I think we're going to see Charlie Cox in Spider-Man, and then we're going to see Kingpin in this, and then the Echo show, which is supposed to come out, we'll get a little bit more detail on that because Echo, if you guys haven't known, also is one of the characters. She actually takes the mantle of Ronin, so that might be a spoiler, but that's what happens in the comic books. So this is what it's all leading up to, and I'm telling you, if we don't see him within these next 3 episodes, I'm positive that one or two things are the end credit scenes, and I feel like it's that.
Oh, that was a lot.
Just say, I'm just dropping it on y'all.
That was a lot.
Right now.
I
feel like
goosebumps.
everyone. I'm telling you, it's Kingpin because of the story of Echo. It has to be Kingpin. Echo also shows up in Daredevil more so than she does in Hawkeye. I'm telling you, 1,000%, it has to be Kingpin. Now, I'm just telling you, I feel it. I'm gonna freak out when it happens, but I'm telling you, I'm putting my chips on the table. I'm putting them on the table. That it's Kingpin.
Damn.
You take that information the way you are.
God dang.
Yeah. Speaking of all the, and then I also like the tributes that they're showing to Natasha and showing how cool, how good friends her and Clint was when they, even the wife was like,
wife of the year, by the way. Like,
oh yeah,
her being like, oh, he's like, yeah, we're from the tracksuit mafia. She's like, oh, those guys, like her knowing, like instead of being like, oh yeah, honey, I'm fine. Like she knows what's going on. Which, by the way, tracksuit mafia, so good.
Hilarious.
That one guy that opens up to Kate, where he's just like, all right, so I bought my girlfriend Imagine Dragon tickets. Like, like just seeing that, I was just like, oh man, this is so good. I wanted to mention the car chase. One, I want to see, I know we're going to see behind the scenes of how they filmed it. I just want to see that whole film process of the camera continuously rotating in the car to get the shots of Kate rummaging around and then also looking in the back to see everybody shooting at them. Love,
that was awesome.
Yeah, man.
That whole scene was fantastic.
Whenever he's like, okay, I need you to shoot arrows, I can't hear you. but I need you to shoot arrows except for this one. And he's like literally picking them out. She's like, how do you know which one's which? So I feel like we're gonna.
No, that was great too, because when she's shooting them out and she's like, how do you have not these labeled? Like, because he already knows. And then it just shows, like, because that's another ongoing joke, right? Is we're always making fun of how he literally has an arrow for every situation. And he comes prepared. So it's funny that he had the, the gunk. He had the blow up one. He had the plunger. And then like it started to make sense to her when like it's just like, oh, I see why you have all this. And then you could tell that she was starting to understand, because when he had the USB one, they were already so scared of all the other ones that they saw that they were like, oh wait, like don't hit us with nothing crazy.
The bald guy next to him killed me, because as soon as he shoots it, he's the first one to go scream, and
it's so good. It's like, again, they're doing I think they're doing a really good job. I think episode 3 is obviously the strongest of the two. I mean, of the thing, because I feel like we got the most action.
Yeah,
but we also
and the Pym arrow.
Yeah, the Pym arrow was
dude. Oh, as soon as I saw it, and I was like, I saw it, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, wait. And as soon as I saw the arrow grow big, I was like, oh, this is dope. This is so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing, because, and there's also just that relationship too, because remember that there's that famous comic book cover that a lot of people refer to when you see Ant-Man that's on his arrow.
And like you said,
so like, you know what I mean? So it's just a nice little, and we got that in Endgame, and now it's kind of cool, like, oh look, we got a little connection between them. So I thought it was cool. I love that Kate drew the classic Hawkeye costume. I thought that was fantastic. And then she was just like, picture it in purple, and he's kind of like, and you look at Hawkeye and you're like, there's no way he's wearing purple. Like, he's just not doing that. So
also,
I think,
shout out to the golden retriever that is in this show. Super cute. Very
adorable.
helpful. Yeah.
Adorable. I mean, just like, we love the doggos. The doggos always need a for the show. So there's just so many good things that are happening with this show that I'm really invested in. So like, also another thing, Kingpin is actually the person who orders the hit out on Echo's dad in the comic books. So I'm interested to see, because remember, Clint kind of gives that idea that he kind of knew what was like, oh, he was like, no, they're like, the tracksuits are not really like the people you need to worry about. It's the people that deal with them. So I'm interested to see if we have the Clint and Kingpin relationship, if they were having conversations and Clint was doing this for Kingpin, essentially, right? Because that would make sense. Now, if that's a thing, and he doesn't really know about if Kingpin was just like, because Kingpin does his things real sly, but it would give them a nice connection, right? So he would not he would have a problem with him, and then obviously Daredevil. Like, man, listen, it needs to happen. I will be.
What a way to end the year! Holy crap, dude! Like, we literally have a month. We have this. Oh yeah. We have Spider-Man. Like,
Book of Boba at the end of the month.
So much emotion.
Like, there's going to be a lot of emotion. Spider-Man's going to be. Don't worry, we are going to be ready for Spider-Man, guys. So, but yeah, I mean, that was pretty much I'm like I said, we're really enjoying the show. I can't wait to see what happens next. We're going to end the show the same way we always do, by finding out what our favorite parts, moments. Just do it for all 3 episodes, Chris. We don't necessarily need to do like for each episode, but we will start back again doing that next week.
Yeah.
Where we do it.
So
we're going to go back to episodic.
Out of the 3 right now, the one that comes to mind is that Pym moment. Whenever we saw the arrow, really enjoyed that whole car chase scene. Just the camera rotating and them changing through the arrows, and her trying to communicate to him while he couldn't, communicate to her. And like whenever she's like, it'd be better if we were facing the other way. He's like, it'd be better if we were facing the other way. I was like, what?
They're playing really good tricks with the whole thing. So I agree. That's also my favorite too. I just think the camera work. I'm a sucker for all of those shots and stuff like that. I mean, and I'm a huge sucker for when you mess with sound and when you do it like the way that they do it, right? So like you could hear the things that Hawkeye was going through, but him like trying to hear Kate also while this camera is just like doing work in this short little space of just going around it. I was all for that. Once I was watching that, this is exactly the kind of, because I love stuff like that. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Baby Driver, and I love Edgar Wright, so that gave me a very Edgar Wright feel, and that whole scene was just great, and just again the connection of them with the different arrows, with all that stuff it's really showing that bond, and it was a good mid-season finale essentially, because that's what it really was when it boils down to. So. All right. So I think we covered what we're going to cover, guys. We are sorry for the little hiatus. Things got a little crazy between both of us. Now, Chris and I are both also working now. So, things like this happen, but we are going to get this content out to you guys. We know December is packed. We've been talking about doing a little special one for you guys. We're going to hold off on the details about that.
Yeah.
Just in case we can't get it done, but we are going to try to get, some more content out for you guys. We are going to be back next week with this with episode 4 of Hawkeye. So again, guys, thank you for all the support. Please, if you guys want a chance to win this mouse, help us get to 100 subs. And as soon as we do that, we can give away that mouse, and then we can start planning on what our next giveaway is going to be. Yeah. So
also, please make sure, because our schedules are getting crazy. Our days aren't normal right now. Everybody's on different schedules. Please make sure to hit that notification bell, because we do want to get this content to you guys. We understand that consistency is key, but as of right now, life is in the way of what we're doing here. So please make sure to hit the notification bell so we can get that stuff to you guys, and you guys know what's going on, and you can keep up with us, and we can keep getting things out to you.
Yep. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us until we see you guys next time. Remember, every Tuesday we do a live show over on Twitch. It's also here on YouTube. So come check that out. Come hang with us. We'll have our other co-host Yendi, who doesn't show up for these, but hopefully we got some things that Yendi plans on watching. So maybe we'll have him in here again, even though he still hasn't watched Dune, but we'll talk about that in another day. So until we see you guys next time, Chris and I are out. Fire team out.